Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, JG. Jarrod Glant here on Young Hustlers. Another episode on the Cardone Zone, and I'm super excited. I've got a very special guest in the house today, but first, so we get the phones lit up, because we're going to be talking about something very important today. We're going to be talking about marketing, either yourself or your business. 305-865-8668. Call if you want to come on and ask questions live about marketing yourself or your business. And this is a phone call you're going to want to make, because you're going to want to get in this guy right here's head. This is Mr. Buckwise. He's the CMO for Cardone Ventures.
Boy, that sounds important.
And this guy has a resume in marketing, running agencies, working with billion-dollar brands that's longer than Allen's Rolls Royce. And so I'm super excited to have him here to share today. So welcome.
I appreciate it, Jarrod. One, don't get it fooled. My resume, it looks impressive. Jarrod has all the marketing knowledge that anybody could ever need. He's got real life experience. I got a lot of smoke and a lot of mirror, but Jarrod is your marketing guru.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were going to talk about one of the number one ways that businesses fail when they market. Mm-hmm. And then I asked Alan, and he said not giving him money to do the marketing. That's the number
of course
one.
He did,
yeah, that's the number one reason. But no, between Alan and Grant and Jarrod, you guys, you're creating a whole new path for marketing.
It's really interesting how it's changed. Like this whole social thing really. Because when I went to school, in college, I had a degree in business management and a minor in marketing.
Yep.
And I remember the marketing that I was learning, and this was 15 years ago.
Yeah. What
maybe.
were they teaching you?
It was all big brand.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even remember. Like all I remember is I was like, they're talking about companies like Coca-Cola.
Yep.
And using all these big case studies
that don't help small businesses.
Yeah, and then you get out into the marketplace and you're like, how does this even work? And so do you think it's because the principles and the strategies and tactics that they use don't work for small businesses, or do you think they're just further along in the kind of the brand development, marketing strategy? Talk a little bit about that.
They're different playing fields, right? And so Jarrod mentioned I started a small agency. I've worked with massive companies. So I've done work for Starbucks, Nike, Adidas, Google. I was on beta teams where we were creating experiential products through banner ads. The first experiential banner ad, AR banner ad ever, I built that.
Wow.
I commissioned Adidas. They paid me $800,000. We created a way for you to be able to see running shoes in AR from a Google banner, right?
Wow.
That playing field versus the flower shop owner, the massage or spa, or the plumber or the roofer who's trying to get new clients through a brick and mortar location. It's just a different playing field.
Yeah, so when you do an ad like that for Adidas,
are
they, how focused? Because obviously if you own a flower shop and you're trying to sell some flowers and you're like, man, there's all this COVID stuff going on.
Sure.
I'm trying to pay my bills.
Yeah.
Every dollar I spend anywhere, I need to track ROI to. How important is ROI for Adidas when they do an ad like that?
It's huge. Data is data. It's important for the small mom and pop all the way up to the top. But it's, it's not just knowing it or understanding it or tracking it, but it's then utilizing it, optimizing it so that you can automate the process. And that's ultimately what we do at Cardone Ventures, along with you and Grant, is we help businesses scale. And so from a marketing standpoint, knowing the data is important. Knowing the data quicker is even more important. How fast are you getting your data? Being able to shift, pivot, and optimize, that's the next piece. And then so it's what are you doing with that data? And then taking it from there and creating a process to automate so that you don't have to be in the data every second. The data is going to decide what you're going to do next. And you can do that on a small scale or a big scale.
Yeah. So talk to me. The title of the show today was the number one reason why you fail with marketing. We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
But I just want to lay some groundwork here.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of different people that are watching the show.
Sure.
Some people own businesses.
Yep.
Solopreneurs. No team, they're on their own.
Okay.
Some people watching this are entrepreneurs. They work for somebody else.
Okay.
And then some folks watching this show run sales teams.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk to the young hustler out there?
Do it.
The individual, I'm working for somebody else.
Yep.
What's important for me to understand about marketing? How do I need to be marketing myself? Like what are some things that I can do? Maybe some like hacks or some secrets or some things that how do I get billion-dollar brand strategies and tactics and apply them to the individual?
I'll say the first thing you need to do is understand your own, if you're an entrepreneur, your own value proposition. 100%. Learning lesson for me in life. So the backstory on my career, I didn't just go straight from college into a marketing class and then go into Fortune 500 marketing. For me, I started on the content and creative side. I did television and radio. I worked with multiple personalities. I did syndications across the world. I worked with people right here in Miami, Y100, iHeartRadio, Elvis Duran, who you guys have down here from New York.
Yeah.
You know, I worked very closely with these people. And so what it taught me was the ability to tell a story. And so at the base level of marketing, when people say, what is marketing, right? More than anything, it's your ability to tell a story. Now, what you do with that story, the ability to resonate it with the right audience, and then getting them to take action so that they then create whatever it is your ROI needs to be. That's truly what marketing is. But if you can't tell a story on any platform, you know, and that's what, going all the way back to television and radio, I learned the ability to tell a story in front of large audiences in a way that felt very personal, in a way that felt connected, in a way that made it feel authentic, right? So I was able to take a microphone or a camera and I was able to talk in a way that connected. And so it's what you do with that from each platform and how you understand each platform. So doing that on television and radio is different than doing that on Facebook or doing that in a Google ad or doing that in YouTube, doing like what we're doing now, right? This is more long form. We don't have commercial stop sets that we have to wait for. We don't have drive time listening hours. There's different strategies with every platform, but at the base level, how can I grab your attention right now and how can I get you interested in who I am and what I have to offer, the value back to you, right? And so if you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, that's at the base level, you got to understand the story. Now for me, the learning lesson that I'll get to, the takeaway was, I did TV, I did radio. I started an agency. I worked with medium-sized companies. I worked with, like when I owned my own agency, I worked with Valvoline Oil across the Midwest. I had entertainment companies, movie theaters. I had automotive. I worked with North American International Auto Show at the time, was one of the world's largest auto shows. I did all their digital strategy. Detroit Tigers, I did all of their digital strategy. And then I went from there and I started working with the world's largest agency. I started working directly with big brands like Nike and Adidas. So trying to get a job going out of broadcast into digital, into agency, into the big brand, I was the guy that was like, this was my story. I can do anything. I can speak in front of rooms. I can create YouTube shows. I'll make that graphic. I know Photoshop. I was the utility unicorn. And that's the entrepreneur's #1 mistake. They want to be the utility unicorn. But the problem is, I'll show you on the Google board. The problem is with a utility unicorn is this. The problem is you want to be everything. Let's call this utility, right? Utility unicorn. The problem is corporations don't hire this. Corporations hire experts in SEO. Corporations hire experts in paid media. Do you have a paid media person on your staff here, Jarrod?
3.
Right? You've got 3 of them, right? So the person who you have in paid media, are they also these people here? Are they also let's say, are they also
salespeople?
Sales?
No.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's like these roles don't like. Hey, I'm the guy. I can do all of these things. Right? Companies go, boy, that sounds great. Unless you're startup, unless you're going to a startup. Startups love this because they don't have any capital. They don't, right? Startups love this. I'm trying to go work for Nike. I'm trying to go work for the world's largest brands. And recruiters are like, crazy past. You started an agency. You did all these things. You ran teams. You had a television show, a radio show. You built audiences. You created your own influencer network. And I just couldn't break through. I couldn't break through anywhere, and I couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't until I figured out that you had to plant your flag somewhere. You've got to be the best at one thing, because that's how you get in the door. Now, this is another secret that you can take away from here. So once you get in the door, once you get in the door. So for me, what was that? I finally cracked it from TV, radio, owning my own agency, and then getting into the big agency. I went to Nike, and I went for a senior strategy role, right? And the strategy was digital. It was a senior digital strategist for Nike running. And I went to Nike, and I used, now think about this, I had experience in the digital strategy. I ran an agency that had a lot of digital strategy, right? You're reading those job descriptions, and you're saying to yourself, well, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this. So okay, so then let's take let's take all of these things you do, and let's wipe out these. Let's take these, and let me build a better story, because now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to break it out, and I'm going to say, okay, but when I did this, how did you do it? When you did this in the strategy thing, when you did this, how did you do it? How did you do it? Give more detail and context to it. Now my story isn't I'm a utility unicorn. My story is, here's how I generated revenue based on my principles and understanding and experience to be the best digital strategist in the world. Now from there, I had a lot of people in the agency world baffled. So WPP is one of the largest holding companies in the world. Omnicom is the second largest. They battle back and forth. And so I worked for WPP, big agency holding group. And I came in at a senior strategy level on Nike running, moved into the Nike golf account, moved in with Nike women, worked with Starbucks, started working through, I came in under VIA, before, it was less than a year, I became the vice president of brand for that agency. This is sloppy. I am not a designer by any means. You do not see anywhere in my utility role. You do not see anywhere that I was a designer. A designer's vomiting right now. This is disgusting. But I did this because now here's the secret. I figured out what I knew my value, right?
This right here.
Yeah, you want to.
This might help a little.
Make it bigger. There we go.
That.
I knew my value. I knew I could do all of these things. And I'm like JoJo the Indian Circus boy, I want to do everything, I can do everything. Get good at one thing. Be good at that one thing. Live that one thing. Massive action. We all know the real truth to the number one reason marketing fails is people didn't take the action. They had the massive action that they needed to take.
Going into it.
Going all in on one thing. Don't be the ultimate expert. When when you get to a C-level position, you can be the expert at everything. But when you're in marketing or you're building marketing, so from there, you're in this
So
role.
let me just summarize real quick. So you're saying if somebody's watching and
because I'm giving marketing specific.
Maybe they're in a role right now.
Yeah.
And
an entrepreneur.
and they work for a company,
right.
and the company says, or maybe they want to go work for a company.
Right.
Maybe they're building funnels right now, and they're running Facebook ads.
They're doing it all.
They're doing automations, and they're doing all this stuff. And
Yeah.
somebody runs an ad like Grant Cardone runs an ad for a media buyer.
Yep.
So what you would say is focus on the media buying. Go deeper telling your story about being a media buyer.
Yes.
And then when you get into the organization, leverage the other experience to find a new opportunity. Like, am I tracking?
You're 100% in. Once you're in, so ready? You get into a company, and this is, by the way, let's go back to Jarrod's original question because I will go off topic. So I'll come back. Building your brand. You're built who you are, right? I know who Jarrod is. It's very obvious who Jarrod is. I know who I am. Our stories are tight. This is building your brand. So when you're building your brand, you're getting in somewhere. It's telling your story, or even if you're prospecting to someone, it's just being able to tell your story concisely with impact in a short amount of time that proves the value, that gives some sort of ROI to who I am, what I do, and this is how it affects you. And so, but going back a little bit to like the career side of things, having the ability to tell that story, get in on that one thing, go massive in on that one thing, then start to show your ability to do utility. That's how I went from senior to VP. Is I started to show, I was like, hey, you know, we're over here, we're running over here. Buck, can you, I can do that. I'll take that.
Do you think that, so then that brings up kind of an interesting scenario. Like for us, for example, like if we hire somebody that's a media buyer and they come in and they talk about, you know, their experience as a media buyer.
Sure.
And it's good experience, we're like, oh wow, hey, that's great. But if somebody comes in and talks to us in the interview, this is just personal.
Sure.
Somebody comes in, they're like, yeah, this is all the experience I have with media buying, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, oftentimes I'd find out when I was doing media buying for clients that I was working with,
right.
You know, they'd have pages that were broken and they'd have this that was them. So I had to figure out how to learn how to use this. And then I learned how to do that.
Right.
And then, you know, and then the next thing I had to do was figure out how to do this and that because they didn't know how to do it. And it was affecting my ability to do my job as a media buyer. So I had to figure out that. So while media buying is my expertise and that's where my focus is, I had to learn how to do all these different things. For me, I'm like, bing, 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 bing. Like that guy is super important for us because we run a little different. You know, like our situation in our marketing department is a little different.
For
like
sure.
It's much fragmented. Probably isn't the right word, but like we operate outside of like a traditional. This is the project. This is the scope. This is the timeline.
Doubt,
like you know what I'm saying? Like
and we do too, by the way.
Hyper proactive on
100%.
Things, right?
You know, here's the thing I'll say. Working with these massive companies. Slow. I worked on pumpkin spice latte for 4 months.
Wow.
4 months, one campaign for 4. Most businesses in America don't have the luxury to work for 4 months on a campaign. They would die.
Yeah.
They'd bankrupt. They'd be out of business.
Yeah.
So there's a happy balance between, you know, they call it the brief. They send a brief in from the brand, then you'd have a rebrief with asking questions back, and then you're extrapolating user behaviors and the way people think and talk and act. It's a luxury item. You know, if you have the ability in billions of dollars, you can create that. And and it's just not the culture of a business like ours and yours. We're moving and taking massive action and adjusting and pivoting quickly. And I think it shows in our success.
For sure.
That model still, it's just two different models. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it's definitely the model that works for us.
So, individual out there, first thing is get your story straight. Figure out what your value prop is. And this is like with anything. If you're a salesperson, like this applies to you. Like what's your value prop as a salesperson? What's the value prop of your product?
Right.
Like you have to go through the line here because all these are points of differentiation. Most of the folks watching here, I think, are probably in the sales field rather than the marketing field.
Okay.
But again, like you have to think about that story that you're telling. You know, people think that sales and marketing are two different things, and it's so funny. That when you get into these communities, there's almost this like, well, all these guys do is run ads. They don't know how to make the call. And then the sales guys are, the marketing guys are thinking, these people, you know, they're doing all this work. Like we're the ones that are creating the interest. Like there's always this interesting relationship.
It's the same thing too.
Sales and marketing.
The minute somebody figures out that sales and marketing is the same thing, you will catapult your efforts.
For sure.
100%.
100%.
I fought being a salesperson. I know Jarrod's not going to want to hear this. I was the talent.
Yeah.
I got this name. We were called the talent. We had talent fees if we spoke about businesses on the air, right? Jarrod would sell to Budweiser or Coca-Cola, hey, this talent Buck, he's going to mention you for 30 seconds on TV. He gets $400,000 for mentioning you, right?
Yeah.
He was, okay, Jarrod's the sales guy. No, I was the sales guy. I think about the money I left on the table because I was the talent back in the day. And that's when I moved into the agency space and I was like, oh, wait. My personality is actually selling this along with the information and data. And I made that connection, and that's when I went like this. It is the same thing. It really is. Sales is everywhere.
So get your story straight.
Yep.
Right? Like get your story tight. Now this applies for business and individual.
100%.
Who are you? What do you bring to the marketplace? How are you different? How do you add value?
How quickly can you tell that story too?
Yeah. And you know, like Grant's story hasn't changed. It's evolved.
Totally.
But it's almost like you're stacking you're stacking bricks on top, right?
Yep,
so
yep.
it's like the core story hasn't changed. You're just adding new things as your experiences change. And
Yeah.
so another thing that you'll want to think with is as you're working through this story, my story, I've been with Grant for 10 years. When I first started, I was like, hey, I'm the guy that answers phones and I try really hard to sell stuff and I'm not that great at it.
Yeah.
And then it became, hey, I'm a sales guy and I'm the number one guy here. And then it became, I'm the sales manager here and now I have a team. And then it became, I'm the VP here and now I'm, we're building out the sales department. And then it's I'm the president here.
Sure.
And now we have all these different strategic initiatives that we're pushing on to try to grow the organization.
Right.
And then, so then my story evolves too.
It not only does it evolve.
I just want to say this one thing, like don't overlook that.
Yeah.
Because if you can continue to seed into your story, like if you can continue to like peel back the layers, the more times you tell a story, the more times you see more opportunity. It's like when Grant delivers a presentation for the first time, and when he delivers it the 25th time, it's so different. Because he's had the opportunity to find where the joke fits in and add a little bit more clarity here, because when he told it the first time, he could tell it missed or they didn't understand it. And
it's a rhythm.
And it allows you to kind of really mature in how you tell your story. That leads to effectiveness and efficiency and how you communicate it, and that has a higher impact.
No doubt. And not only does the story evolve, somebody like Jarrod, who's now at the executive level that you're at, running this corporation with Grant, he may have that evolved story, but the other thing that Jarrod can do now, because he has so much experience, he's able to adapt. Jarrod might have 3 variations of that same story based on who he's talking to. He may tell me the different story than he's going to tell Kevin Hart, because he knows what he needs Kevin Hart to do in order to come to Growth Conference, right? And so I'm getting the story that I need because I got to work in a partnership with Jarrod. Kevin's going to get a skewed version of that because you need him to understand who you are to get on stage. So then you're able to take that story and just pivot and skew, you know? So
like just as an example, so we hire a new salesperson. They go, hey, what's in store for me here?
Right.
I remember when I first started. Right, you tell that story because you're trying to tell, hey, dude, this is what can happen. This is where you start. If you do all the right things over time, this is what can happen.
Inspire him, yeah.
Jack is a great example of this. I had him on the show last week.
I was watching.
He's number one sales guy for the year right now.
Yeah. Oh,
he
wow.
was he was answering phones at the front desk.
That's right.
Got promoted to customer service.
Worked his way up.
Customer service, he worked his ass off, sold a ton of tickets, ended up getting an opportunity for the sales team, knowing that it was like a point of no return.
Right.
There's no going back. If this doesn't work, like you're not going to go back to customer service because we have to replace you. Yeah, we all told him that.
Yeah.
And then he goes over there and he like blows it up, right? So like now that's a story that he can tell to somebody. It's a story I can tell to somebody. So now it's like, this is my story. Look at Jack's story. When I go to Kevin Hart, just so you guys understand, like I'm telling, hey, I remember I slept on an air mattress. I was broke for a year and a half. I was getting my teeth kicked in every day. It was brutal, but I kept pushing. Everybody told me to stop and quit. Like I can tell that story to him.
Because he resonates with that story.
Right. To Kevin Hart, I'm going to say, hey, look, our biggest event was 35,000 people. We filled up Marlins Stadium. The ball team ain't even had that many people in there. We've had Steve Harvey, John Travolta, Dana White, blah, blah, blah. Like we do, a company does $150 million a year. Grant owns all this real estate. We help tens of millions of people improve their financial condition.
Right.
That's the story I'm telling him about us, right?
No doubt.
So understanding how and being aware of how your story is evolving is really important. And because it opens you up to being able to talk to people. Like if you are in a position right now where, let's talk about as a business, for example.
Sure, yeah.
The way you sell somebody on your business in month 4 is different than the way you sell your business to somebody. You sell yourself as part of your business, trying to get a client, right?
Sure.
In year 5.
Right.
Right?
100%.
The story evolves. And so don't get locked into one thing. If you are locked into one thing, you need to have if you're like, man, dude, I'm on a broken record right now. That is an indication that something is broken in your equation. You're not growing as a person. You're not growing as a company. Right. Like you're stalling out. Think about your marriage. Think about relationships that you're in. Like stalling out and telling the same story over and over and over again, whether it's to other people, to yourself, if you're seeing this play out in your life,
right.
I'm going big now.
Yeah, of course you are.
If you go in life, if you're telling the same story over and over again, red light, emergency, red alert, dude, you need to change something because you're not growing right now.
But the important thing about what Jarrod's saying is you've got to have the data to know you're doing that. You've got to have the data. Like, here's the scary thing, people listening or watching right now, they don't even know the red light's going off. Yeah. They've been telling that story over and over, and they're like, man, I don't know what's working.
Life's okay, things are good, they're okay, same job, same income. Yeah. Like, they're on that.
They're not measuring the results.
Treadmill, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Paycheck, good statistic to measure. Your paycheck isn't increasing.
No doubt.
Red alert, something needs to change.
Yep.
Educate yourself, get connected around different people. We got some callers, Johnny? 2 callers. Let's see who we got on the phones here.
All right, we got Justin from Fort Lauderdale.
Justin, what's going on, man? Thanks for calling the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I got you. Say what's up to Buck.
What's up, Justin?
Hey, Buck, what's up?
Hey, man. Good to have you on. First time caller, long time viewer?
Yeah.
Well, it's the second time I've called, actually. The first time I called, Grant was actually still on the show, on the Young Hustler show.
Nice.
But
Our ratings are up since that day, though.
Because I'm on, probably. What's up, Justin?
I wanted to ask, my story is kind of this. So I'm in the promotional products industry. I have been increasing my sales, year over year. I get a lot of referrals through other clients. And I'm trying to develop a presence like on LinkedIn, Instagram, and, these other platforms. And I just I need like an idea of what kind of content I should post each day, or, it's just, I'm kind of lost on it. I don't really know what to,
Justin, I'll give you some basic takeaways right now that are going to help you out. The first question I have for you, I hear Instagram and LinkedIn and my flag automatically goes up, because what it tells me is you might not know who your audience is, and you're casting a wide net to everybody instead of going super deep and niche on who your audience is. So the first thing you need to do is build out who your core target audience is, really knowing and understanding who you're talking to. Because I imagine in your stage of business, you may not have the resources to create enough content across multiple platforms. Now, you can reshare the same content in other platforms, but I'm talking about being really strategic with what you're trying to accomplish and who you're trying to connect with. So the first thing I would do is build out your audience. Understand the persona. Some people call it avatar, whatever you'd like to call it. Really understanding who you're going after. And then from a content standpoint, that knowing who that person is going to help relate so that you can connect with them, right? If I'm trying to connect with Jarrod, I'm not dancing on TikTok. It's probably not going to connect with Jarrod, right? So right? Yeah. So I mean, it might. I don't know.
What's that video? Oh, hey, you can dance.
You can really dance.
You can really dance.
Yeah. See, he does know. He actually is on TikTok.
So I don't know that because one of the young cool kids.
Yeah.
I heard that in the.
That's a good one. But yeah, figure out who your audience is. That's going to dictate your content.
I have my target market defined. Primarily, I deal with like real estate brokers and owners, and I actually recently connected with a woman that had developed an app to bridge all of the dentistry corporations together into one place because they're suffering, severe shortage of personal protective equipment, and we actually have all of that in our own inventory available to ship immediately at like incredible prices. So I'm going to be on a podcast.
Justin, I'll give you one more
for the first time in a couple weeks. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to have a landing page on that app.
I'll give you one more tidbit. I'll give you a quick takeaway here. When you're talking about your audience, when you're talking about creating that core audience, a lot of businesses do this, so don't feel bad. This is the stereotypical, I'm going to build an audience, and the business owner will go, it's real estate brokers. That's my target, real estate brokers. Really get defined on who the audience is. Think of one singular person. So they teach you this in TV and radio. When you're talking to a camera or you're talking in a microphone, the first inclination for anybody is to go, hey, everybody, like say everybody, hey, everybody out there, you're talking to like this big, you're always, think of this on any platform, and TV. Justin, when we were talking, how many people are sitting next to you right now? Were we talking to just you, or did you have it on for a group of 50 people?
Now it's just me.
Right? So Justin, you're my core target audience. So when I'm talking to this camera, I'm talking to Justin. You need to know who Justin is for you. You need to know who the male, female, 1834, 55, 54, you need to know exactly who that one person is. Republican, Democrat, are they middle class, lower class, upper class? Get deep. Are they religious, right? Are they Catholic? Do they have this holiday off? Maybe they're Jewish. They're not coming to your webinar because it's the Sabbath and you didn't know that your core consumer was 80% Jewish.
Yeah.
You really got to know who this person is, So do the research. There's a lot of ways. Obviously, big companies, third-party data, they pay a lot of money to figure this out. You can do your own polls and research, and the more you work in your business, you can figure that out.
Thanks for the call, brother. Good luck with your business. Sounds like you got a good thing going.
Definitely.
Increases year over year. So thanks for the call.
Do me a favor too, Justin and everyone else that's watching right now. I want you to pull out your camera as Jarrod and I are on the show, and I want you to get the screen in there. Here, I'll do one with you. We'll do it together. So I want you to. Oh, hold on. Let me flip my camera around. Here we go. We're going to do some video. Flip that camera around. Look at Jarrod.
Flip it over.
Young hustlers right now.
The golden shine going here, man.
Wow. The only guy that makes me look bad on camera. I'll be honest with you. But then take that video, and then I want you to post it on the platform of choice, Instagram, Facebook, and tag Jarrod, tag Grant, tag Young Hustlers, hashtag Young Hustlers. And we just love to know who's out there. I want to connect, build a relationship.
Love that. Who we got next?
We got David in Israel.
David in Israel.
Wow. What's up, David?
David, what's going on, man?
Yo, guys, how you doing today?
Good. Welcome
Good.
to the show from Israel. What part of Israel are you in? You in Tel Aviv? You in Jerusalem? Where are you at?
Tel Aviv, yeah.
Tel Aviv, my man.
Very cool. Very cool.
What's your question, Dave, brother?
Awesome. So basically, I have a question more of the relationship with your media buying, right, guy? Recently, we are a media buying guy to our company. It's doing pretty good. We're working now 2 months, 3 months almost. Now, I hired a media buying only after I know exactly, all the audiences we have for our business, and after I did the media buying part for our business for the last year, sorry. Now, we generated over 7 figures for the first year, which is good in revenue, of course.
That's awesome.
Solid.
And the media buyer side was to take this job from me so I can do other things, like make sure the order fulfillment working, all the employees, the website is always improving and stuff like that. Now, he's doing a very good job, but sometimes, you see him doing things that you might want to do differently. Now, I kind of want to tell him, hey, maybe we should, attack this from a different angle or do, things differently. But I don't want also to make him feel that I am the one who charge or now he does the marketing job for our company. Now, I want to keep the distance between us, but I also want to make sure that he does the job. And if I want to, give him some advice or something, so he will not think that, hey, just give me do his job, and if you hired me, So how do you guys manage the relationship with your media buying guy and not make it look like you force him to do things he don't like or don't know? I would love to take your take on this one.
I'll let you take that since you ran an agency and you
have
creatives and people that come in. Because sometimes creative people are weird.
Oh,
they see things
seriously?
a certain way.
Oh, seriously?
They want to do things like Johnny. You tell Johnny something about a video, he's going to be like, yo,
man.
I got the video covered.
Dude, let me tell you something. Managing creative people is an art.
Yeah.
And you absolutely need to learn that art. Otherwise, you get no creativity.
Yeah.
You got to understand that. So let me see if I understand the question. And Jarrod, maybe you can help me here. Is it you've got someone who's doing media execution for you, and
Correct.
And they're not being
It sounds
strategic?
like he wants to provide feedback on how they can do their job better. Is that right, David? But you're afraid that you'll stifle their creativity?
Look, he does the job great. Sometimes I see things that we can do better because I do have experience very much with media, but Facebook, Google.
Is this a vendor that you're working with?
Yeah, is this an employee or a contractor?
Yeah, big difference.
This is a contract. He has 3 other employees that does the work.
Okay.
This is pretty much it. Yeah.
And so just so I'm tracking.
Time out. So you're the customer, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
You pay him. You're the customer. He's the
vendor.
He's the vendor, right?
Yeah, he's a contractor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And you've got a business, and you pay him to do paid media for a business, and he thinks you can do better paid media than what he's doing?
No.
He sees stuff. The vendor's doing stuff.
Okay.
And he's looking at it because he used to do the paid media for his own business.
He doesn't think it's great.
And he's like, he does good, but he's like, I feel like there's some things that could maybe be done better or maybe be more in alignment with what I would like to see.
Sure. So transparency is the first step. Open communication, honesty, transparency, open communication, constant communication is the absolute key. You know, when COVID struck, it was amazing to me as we dug into businesses around the world, how many of them were not looking at their data as frequently as they should. The average business owner looks at data quarterly. Quarterly, okay? Now, I would push someone going quarterly to go weekly. Now, if you're in the Cardone network, you know
hourly.
Hourly is the only way to do it, right? It's not even daily, right? Daily seems mind-blowing for a lot of business owners, but my suggestion would be to have that open communication and say, here's what's happening now, here's what I'd like to have happen. Let's track this together and see how we can optimize to make this work better. It's accountability really more than anything, because if you as the owner or the client are not keeping this vendor accountable, then it's your fault, not his fault. It's your fault for not keeping him honest and having that open
ultimately you're the customer. Like, you are the customer.
Right.
So, you know, if you have occasional feedback, then there's zero issue with that.
Right.
You know, like, you could even tell the guy, hey, I saw what you did on X. I really loved it and thought it was awesome. I sat and I thought to myself, I wonder what would happen if we did this.
Right.
Would you mind putting that in the next campaign that you build and trying that? For my own personal curiosity, I'd like to see how that would work.
Yeah.
Dude, they can't have an issue with that.
Not at all.
At the end of the day, dude, you're the customer.
No doubt.
Dude, like, do you guys want to be right or do you want to get business?
Right.
I mean, there comes a point in time where being right don't really matter.
Nope.
And that's when we talk in our sales material. I mean, this is like foundational sales material for us, which is always agree. Like, listen to the customer. Like, listen, understand, acknowledge, and then if they can provide a compelling case on why they did it a certain way or why it won't work that way or why, then, you know, then that gives you an opportunity to hear it. But like Buck said, at that point you're in communication. You should never ever feel like we get somebody putting a big mural on one of our walls, and we're like, hey, it looks like it's crooked. Pull it down and do it again.
Right.
They're the vendor.
Right.
We pay them. They create. They do a lot on their own. But at the end of the day, we're the customer. We're the one paying them.
No doubt.
Like,
I'd say, to Jarrod's point, setting up expectations in the front too. Like, making sure that you know it's hard to manage on the back end. You got to manage on the front end too. So I imagine when the mural comes in, right? They've told that person exactly, as the customer, exactly what they need, so that when it's wrong, they can say, this is exactly how we wanted it. It's not how we said. We don't agree. You need to move it again. So, you know, it's early expectations, transparency. It's often looking at your data as often as possible. I would say, you know, at least once a day if you're not going over it once a day. So I've paid media employees that we work with as well. We have 2 check-ins, one in the morning, one at night. So we're going 2 a day, right? We're going right in the morning. We're setting expectations. We're looking at yesterday, like overnight. We're talking about what's coming up today. And then towards the end of the day, not even at the end of the day, because we may want to optimize early, we're talking to them again. If you're not having conversations that often, I'd recommend you do it.
Good to go?
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate the call,
Got it,
man.
David.
all the way from Israel, man.
Pretty cool.
Gotta
Is that a
love
first
that.
for the Young Hustler show?
No, people
You've
call from
done
all
Israel?
over the place.
Yeah, okay.
They
I
call
thought it was
from
special.
all over the place. Yeah. Oh no, yeah, it was first time calling. So look, this is super important for you guys to get down. We've talked a lot about down some of these little side streets around this big thing of marketing and story and value prop, but ultimately, what Buck came here to talk about today was the number one reason people fail with marketing is because they never do enough of it to make it work.
That's exactly
They
it.
don't hit the list hard enough. They don't post frequently enough.
Didn't talk to the paid media specialist
enough. Like it all breaks down because you don't do enough of something.
Right.
And this is why the 10x concept is so important for people to really understand.
No
because 10x means that you're doing all of these things, but not just with your marketing. It means that you're doing that with your sales organization. It means that you're doing that in your personal relationships. It means that you're doing that in the gym.
Right.
It means that you're doing that with your personal development.
And when you do that, it's a trickle effect. You'll notice that when you do it right in one spot, it affects the next spot and allows you to 10x the relationship.
Totally.
10x the gym, 10x the sales team. It trickles. And not to mention, and this is something our CEO Brandon talks about a lot, the law of magnetism is a Maxwell law. If you follow John Maxwell, when you 10x your life, guess what gets attracted into your life? That's why I'm sitting by Jarrod, right? I made the decision to 10x my life, and now I'm sitting next to Jarrod, who's somebody that I look up to, and somebody I learn from constantly.
And I've been 10xing, and we get Buck into our ecosystem.
That's how it works.
So it mutually works for everybody until you get to a position where, I look at the close circle of people that I spend the most time with, and these are all highly talented people. These
Right.
are all people that are incredible at what they've done. They've been incredibly successful.
Right.
And that is, it's one of those things that, I've talked about this in the past before, and this is one of the most important lessons, no matter how old you are. If you're 15, if you're 25, if you're 55,
Right.
if you haven't figured this out yet, it's never too late to figure it out. And this one thing will change everything for you.
I hope you're taking notes.
I'm trying to set it up a lot, like I'm trying to build it.
This is
build
big,
it up,
guys.
right? If you can understand delayed gratification, if you can understand putting in the work without seeing a return immediately, like if you understand that game,
You can have a Porsche.
then yeah, and a Porsche payment. Then you can become 10x in
True.
every area of your life. The reason people bail on 10x is because they're impatient with the result. And what worked for me wasn't that I showed up and kicked ass and worked hard for 6 months. It's that I continued to do that.
Right.
It's now I'm constantly thinking the work that I do today is different than the work that I did before. Back then it was blowing up the phones every day, slamming my head up against the wall.
Such a good point.
And that's like the first, what would be a good analogy for this? But it's like that first hurdle. Like if you can imagine, you got to go run an obstacle course. And the very first obstacle on that course is a fucking 50-foot wall.
Right.
And every other wall that comes after that is smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
That first wall is where everybody stops.
Yep.
Because they don't understand this idea of, I got to play the long game. I got to keep going after this. I got to show up and do the same thing every day because it's the right thing.
Right.
Not because I immediately see a result from it. And that's why people bail on marketing. That's why people bail on business. That's why people bail on the gym. That's why people bail on diets. That's why people's marriages fail, because they're impatient with the result that they're looking for.
No doubt.
And if you can get that, that is what 10x is. And when you can get that, every area of your life will change. That is why that's why people go insane with 10x in the best way possible.
So true.
Because they get the idea that I'm actually being compensated, or the result of my effort is actually in alignment or greater than my expectation.
No doubt.
Or than the work that I'm putting in. And that's when you see things like, you look at Grant and you're like, man, dude, he's so rich. He's going after it. Things are still hard. I'm not going to say they get easy. But if we decided that we wanted to start a new business next week, stay tuned because there might be an announcement coming.
Uh-oh. Big announcement.
Maybe 30
Big
days.
announcement.
We're working on something big. We are in a position to do that now, and it's much easier than it was 10 years ago or 9 years ago when we had 4 employees.
Right.
And when we were only doing $2.5 million a year in sales. Like today, the game is different and the reward is bigger.
Right.
And it's still work, but we've passed a lot of the obstacles. Like we're not having to go over that massive 50-foot wall that we have to scale that most people fall off of.
Yeah.
And if you can understand this, I promise you, this is probably this one thing probably had more to do with where I'm at personally today than anything. And for you going from TV and radio all the way through to owning your business and agency, now you're a senior executive for a massive organization that's going to freaking blow up and explode
No
and
doubt.
give you the best opportunity you've ever had in your life.
100%.
It's not because of one thing done one time.
Nope.
It's because consecutively, consistently, relentlessly, with frequency, you show up and you do the right thing every day.
Yep.
And if you can do the right thing every day and you can push through the resistance, you can push through the failure, you can push through this thing, this idea that you need to be compensated for your efforts on a daily basis,
Yep.
if you can get past that, you actually have a shot at figuring this whole thing out and truly becoming 10X.
I'm glad you said that because I meet a lot of people who don't know 10X.
Yeah.
They know of it, they don't know more about it.
Yeah.
Especially when I joined, right? I've got this following from my old TV radio career, right?
Yeah.
And like, what's this 10X thing? You know, your own family starts to ask, like, so what is this thing, this 10X thing, right? Jarrod's heard it for years. Are you guys a cult? What is this thing, right? And you have to explain it to him. And I think the first perception that people get is that massive action part, the one we were actually talking about with marketing. Take Justin, for example, right? But what I think we don't hear as much because Jarrod and I already know, and so we start talking to people and we're already giving them context and contrast, right? So, but to hear Jarrod talk about the fact that the massive action is the 50-foot wall, but it's what you do after that massive action, it's that continued, sustained massive action that actually gets you to the goalpost, that actually gets you the reward. Because we'll get someone like Justin, just to use you as an example, he'll say, you know, Buck told me to poll and figure out who my core audience is. I went out and I talked to 5 people. I talked to 10 people. No, I took massive action. I talked to 50 people, right? And I started to dial in, these are my customers, and I know all these little things about them. And a week later, and Jarrod's seen this for years, hey man, I did what you told me to do. I did the massive action, and like, my marketing still sucks, right? And it's like, well, okay, how long did you do it? And how did you measure it? And did you do it again?
Yeah.
And did you do it again? And what did you learn from it? And how did you optimize it? And then did you do 200 people? And then did you do 500 people? You know, it's like...
Because when you get to person 4,362...
Right.
You might actually get a multi-million-dollar idea talking to that person.
No doubt.
And that's why this thing is like, they're like, you know... I'd rather be lucky than talented. Or what are some of the sayings? Like, I'd rather be lucky than talented. Like, dude, the thing you want to know is you want to know that you just show up every day.
That's right.
Or no, what's the one? It's like the more action I take, the luckier I get.
That's the one.
That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
So the more action I take, the luckier I get, because you keep showing up every day, and that's how you get on the field. That's how you play the game of life to win. Is you just keep showing up and you keep doing the right thing, the next right thing. And if you're overwhelmed with where you're at, if you're discouraged because you're not where you want to be, dude, what's the next right thing to do today? Don't think about next week or next month or next year. Dude, think about if you got to pull it back to, dude, what's the next right thing for me to do? Maybe it's getting your ass up off the couch right now and going to the gym and working out and getting your body moving. Maybe it's
one time?
No. Just the next step.
I went to the gym, but I went to the gym.
Yeah, maybe it's turning this off right now and picking up the phone and making a sales call. Like, if you're discouraged and you're overwhelmed because of the distance or the gap that you perceive between where you are today and where you want to be, don't get overwhelmed by that. Just do the next thing.
Right.
Like, I'm like, man, I'd love to be in Grant's position or Brandon's position someday where they've got full freedom to do whatever they want. They've got enough money where they never have to work again if they don't want to. They can go vacation. They can do with whatever they want. Total freedom.
Yep.
I look at that and go, man, I want that. And sometimes a lot of times, I'm like overwhelmed. I'm like, dude, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
I literally, before this show, Grant, he sent me a video, and he was talking about, he was like, dude, if you're 27 years old and you're trying to figure all this stuff out and you're trying to get your money right, like, do not compare yourself to where I am today at 63. You can't. Like, you can be inspired by it. You can aspire to be in that position.
Right.
But you can't compare yourself to that position because your circumstances are different. He's got more years on the field. He's been through more negotiations.
He's been through two
more
economic downturns.
Economic cycles.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much that people have that you don't. That's
Context.
why it's so dangerous to compare yourselves to other. I get sucked into that. And we've talked about this before. I'm like, that's why I got to turn social media off a lot.
Yep.
Because I don't like getting influenced by other people.
Me
so
neither. I do the same thing.
One way or the other.
I turn everything off except Jarrod's. I still watch Jarrod.
So I don't want to sit and listen to a guy that's a billionaire every day because I go through all kinds of shit in my head. And some days I'm like, oh, I want that, I can have it. And the other days like, oh my God, I'm so far away, I should just quit right now.
Right.
And then the other way you go, people that are not as well off or not in that position yet, and you're like, man, life seems pretty easy for them, man. Like maybe you don't need that. Like, I'll just let you guys know with full transparency, like, every day ain't an easy day.
Right.
And if your expectations are that they will be, then you're gonna have troubles. Like, you gotta know, like, it's a freaking wave and you just ride the wave.
Yep.
And again, if you show up and you do the right thing, even if you can only do the next right thing,
Right.
it's better to continue to build in that discipline because ultimately it pays off in every area of your life. And that's how we got into this big freaking life conversation because we're talking about marketing.
No
but
doubt.
the reason your marketing is going to be successful is because you have this one single thing installed, this one discipline in your life that you apply everywhere.
I'll tell you one more thing too. It's all like, if you're on that couch, Jarrod's asking, maybe it's time that you get up and go do something or go to the gym or make that sales call. Brandon Dawson talks about this a lot as well. It all starts with the mindset. It all starts with the way that you think. And so I heard Jarrod mimicking what somebody on the couch might think, right? Oh, it's not working. If that's your mindset, guess what? That's your life. That's what comes true. That's the law of magnetism. It's what you're bringing into your life. So it's like, what is the first step? Is it to get up? It actually isn't to get up. It's to change it here
to decide.
First. Make the decision.
Your brain has to tell your body to get up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Brandon says what you think is what you say is what you end up doing, and then what you do ultimately becomes who you are. If you know Jarrod, what do you think he's thinking as he sits here doing the show, talking around the world to other entrepreneurs, right? With his wife and his beautiful 2 new kids, and it's like just got the perfect 10x life going. What do you think he had to think to do that?
And I'll tell you right now, I'm thinking I need $100K a month of passive income.
Yes.
I'm thinking that I want to spend 2 months every year in Marbella on the Costa del Sol in Spain.
With his buddy Buck.
With my buddy Buck. This is my new thing. So, dude, I want to go to Italy in April, and I want to go to either Greece or like Mykonos in August.
I'm with you.
Or Marbella. Like,
Let's
I want to
go.
be in Spain or in Greece late in the summer on the Mediterranean, in a badass villa.
Man,
chilling.
Sounds good. Sign me up.
Working, but chilling.
The freedom to do it, though.
Totally.
Yeah.
And making money.
Yep.
And still, like, being able to do things that you're passionate about and that you want to do. And I've been in a position my whole life where I've never been able to do the thing that I wanted to do. I've always had to do the thing that I have to do. Now, 10 years ago, for the first 2 years that I worked for Grant, like, I wasn't all in like I am on this now.
The first how many?
The first 2 years.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like, I was like, because it was so much work. It was so hard. And it was like constant, like, dude, it was just like,
grueling.
Grant was not, people think, oh, wow, it must be so easy to work for Grant. Everybody must want what you guys do. Like, okay, well, we were doing this when Grant wasn't Grant.
Right.
Like, we were making cold calls when I said, I'm calling from Grant Cardone's office.
Who?
And they were like, who?
Yeah. That's a different game.
So like, for me, it took a while, but then once I started getting a big enough book of business, and I started getting all of the success stories of people winning, and then I'm like, oh man, dude, this works. My dad gets on this stuff. My mom's like, man, he's thinking and talking differently since he's been going through Grant's training that he bought for the business. Then those stories start impacting me, and then we start getting all of these stories from people that are making these massive transformations. We start magnetic. We start attracting people who think with 10x, big 10x flag right here, you can't see it. And then I'm like, man, dude, this is amazing. We're impacting people's lives. And then you turn around and you're like, oh, and I'm making money.
No doubt.
Like if you're fortunate enough to get those two things to align, like you are truly in a really incredible spot, and I know that's what we're all about. We want to profit, we want to make money, but we want to impact as many people as we possibly can, and change the way that they think, the way that they earn. And I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Buck.
This is fun. Anytime you tell me, man, I'm here. I
just love hanging out with you. I wish I got to see you guys more. So.
I know. We're happy to be back in Miami. We actually won 2 rooms over. We've got a 10x 360 going on. It's a 2-day deep dive. We examine all 4 quadrants of a business. You've got finance, operations, HR, you've got financial modeling, and of course marketing. I go on in about an hour. I'm going to spend 2 or 3 hours with a group of extremely dedicated business owners.
7-figure business owners.
7-figure business owners who are thinking about what they want to do, right? So they're having that thought, and so that led them to this event to learn more so that we can help them scale their businesses from 1 million to 8 million to 20 million.
This is one of this program, this 10x 360 program that Buck's talking about. This is probably one of our highest rated programs in the Cardone ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's a $35,000 2-day workshop.
Right.
And it's one of our highest rated. And I don't know the exact percentage because I haven't figured it out, but I would say that 75% or better of the customers that come to this event do the next thing with us. They do the next thing, they do another thing, like it doesn't stop here.
Right.
And people don't spend second money if the first thing wasn't so freaking amazing.
For 360, it's 99%.
Yeah.
It's for 360, everyone moves on, and that 1% is just somebody who, may have fallen into personal issues or something like that. For the most part, is every business owner continues on to the next level to work with us, because what we're doing isn't just selling a 2-day event. We're developing long-term relationships to help business owners scale their business, their personal, professional, and financial goals. We're helping them actualize them and make them come true. A lot of what these business owners pick up in 2 days, they go home the next day, immediate differences.
Yep.
Immediate
the first
effect.
meeting when they
It
get
changes.
that.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it is because of the expertise that they have, billion-dollar marketing strategies.
Yeah.
Brandon sold this company for $200 million.
151.
He's dealt with private equity companies, and he's dealt with structuring small businesses, doing $2 million a year, so that they could maximize the value of the company when they sell it in the future. And so they truly do have the expertise to work with you, from if you're doing $2 million or $3 million a year, all the way up to 50, 100 million, 150 million bucks a year. So check the program out. Where can they get more information on it?
Sure, you can go to CardoneVentures.com right there. You can also just DM me at AboutBuck on Instagram. Happy to connect with you and follow along your journey as well. So you could DM me and we could start the conversation about bringing you in.
And I'm going to give you permission to call him Uncle Buck, not just because he's cool, but because Uncle Buck was one of my favorite movies growing up.
You can.
And,
you absolutely can.
You dropped that the other day.
No
So
doubt.
I appreciate you being here, and look forward to having you back on again.
Thank you,
and
bro.
Remember, the only people who condemn the hustle are the ones who've already given up on the hustle themselves. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.